Let's create a cone-shaped optical illusion. So what is op art? Op art, also known as optical art, was an art movement that became popular in the 1960s. It is often seen in black and white, but contrasting colors are used also. Op art is known to play tricks on your eyes through the careful planning of color, shapes, and lines. Op artists show movement like flashing patterns, warping or swelling, and hidden images in their art. Victor Vasarely was one of the first op artists. He is considered the father of op art. He began making op art style images in the 1930s, and his op art was something that the world had never seen before. Bridget Riley is another famous optical artist. Riley began making op art in the 1960s. Most of her artwork is in black and white. She currently lives in London. So let's create a cone-shaped optical illusion. Remember, optical illusions take time and planning to create. So watch the directions closely and carefully. Let's go ahead and see how I made my optical illusion. For your supplies, you'll need a piece of paper. It could be a white piece of paper or colored paper, a pencil, a ruler, a black Sharpie, and then white and black colored pencils. Start by drawing a small dot near the center of your paper. It only needs to be big enough for you to see. Notice that I'm using a Sharpie here to draw so that you can see the steps more clearly in the video, but you should be using a pencil. First, start by drawing a diagonal line through the dot. Be sure to use a ruler to help you make a straight line. Then, draw a second diagonal line that goes through the dot. Now you should have an X shape on your paper. Then, draw a vertical line that goes through the center point where those two diagonal lines meet. And finally, draw a horizontal line through that center point. Then, you should have 8 sections that are triangle shaped. It's okay if they're all different sizes. The next steps are drawing repeated frown-shaped lines in every other section. Notice that when I do this, I'm starting in the middle next to the center point. Once I draw a line, I am skipping a section and leaving it blank for now. Once you have drawn frown-shaped lines in every other section close to the center point, you can repeat the frown line shapes to the edge of your paper in those sections. You should have about 4 to 5 lines in each section depending on the size of your sections. Notice that every other section is still left blank. After drawing the frown line shapes, you can color in every other section black starting at the center. It's a good idea to put a dot in the sections that you will color in black. I would suggest doing this in pencil in case you make a mistake with a dot. Remember, you can always erase pencil. Let's pretend I've colored in all the sections that are supposed to be black. After that, the next steps are drawing smile-shaped lines in the blank sections. Notice how I am connecting the frown-shaped lines that I drew first with a smile-shaped line that curves in the opposite direction. Try your best to connect your lines. It will help with your illusion. Sometimes you may have a different amount of lines in sections. If a section looks too big, like more than 3 fingers wide, you should add another line to break up the space. When you're drawing your lines, try your best to keep your lines arched and curved. It will help your cones appear 3-dimensional even though they are drawn on a flat piece of paper. Once you have drawn all of your lines, then you can plan where the rest of the black sections will be. Remember to use a pencil to make a dot, just in case you make a mistake. When you color in the smile-shaped sections, the center will start with white. Skip the first sections closest to the center point and leave it white. Then your pattern will alternate correctly with every other shape colored in black. Now, let's pretend that all my shapes are colored in. The next step is adding shading to the edges of our cone shapes. Using a black colored pencil, add shading along the edge of each cone shape in the sections that are not colored in. When I'm shading, I'm showing value, which we know is the amount of light or dark in a color. We want our shading to start out really dark at the edge of the shape and then gradually fade to a lighter value. Remember that you can get dark values from a colored pencil by pressing down hard and light values by letting go of the pressure and pressing lightly. Shading will give the illusion that the cones are rounded by adding a shadow along the edge. You should do this to both sides of the cone shape. Notice how the shading does not go all the way through the white sections. There is still some white showing. The final step in creating your illusion is adding the opposite of a shadow, which is a highlight. Using a white colored pencil, color in the center of each cone shape. Notice that I am making a line and going over it a couple times to make my white highlight bold and really pop out. If you do this only once, it won't show up that much. Once you add the highlight to your cone shapes, you will really start to see your illusion. Now let's review how to draw our optical illusion again. After you have 8 triangle-shaped sections, then you can start drawing frown lines in every other section. Then start in the center and color every other space in black. After, you can draw smile lines that connect to the frown lines in the other sections. Put a dot in every other section to plan where your color goes. Then color in the other sections and leave the center sections uncolored. Then add shading on the edges of each uncolored section with a black colored pencil. And after, add a highlight with a white colored pencil in the middle of each cone. The shading and the highlight will really make your illusion pop.